All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Camp Elasticity, the podcast. Tonight we've got Tom Ross, Heather Crank. Hello, Tom. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Alexis Clements and a few others. The doors are open on Facebook. Anybody?
Your audio is very low. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
It's very low.
Hmm.
Barely hear you.
Well, is it better if I aim at this microphone? Am I
Yeah.
gonna have to put on the headphones?
No,
right.
it sounds better now.
All right. Well, I'll make sure I do that. Heather Crank is going to be with us tonight. She's a designer, a graphic artist. I've been wanting to introduce the two of you. And she should be along any minute now. It's 2 minutes early. How's everything been going with you, Tom?
Yeah, okay. It's all right. Yeah. How
Got
about
any
you?
news to report?
No, nothing yet. Working on some stuff, but nothing to report yet.
Right. Well, there's that psychopoetic book fair coming up on October 21st. I should announce that to all the listeners. It's going to be at Althea Center for Engaged Spirituality, 1400 William Street in Denver's Capitol Hill.
Oh, that's cool.
So I guess we should talk. Oh, look, here's Heather Crank now. Heather, it's nice to see you. How's everything been?
Hi, good.
Hi.
Good.
So, let me introduce you. You're a graphic artist, you're a designer, you're the owner of Cromonti, and you've got a podcast called Mixed Metaphor.
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Tom Ross, he's the author of a book series called US 6. He's running for president in the 2024 election on the transhumanist ticket. I've been wanting to introduce the two of you.
Wow.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Wow, that's intense.
Yeah. Well, it's more of a marketing campaign for transhumanism than it is a political campaign at this point. But yeah, but I'm also a designer. Was a national creative director for years for a radio group. And so it's I sent you a friend request on Facebook. I was looking at your stuff.
Oh.
So,
Oh, good.
and it's metaphor is in the number 4, right?
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah. So what is trans tell me what that is? Transpersonal?
Transhumanism.
What is that?
It's a philosophy, a movement. Our party's subtitle is putting technology, science, and health at the forefront of American politics. But it's all about moving toward post-humanism. It's all about using technology to enhance our lives. A lot of people get into the movement because they want to live longer. It's a whole longevity science movement, and a lot of people get into. I got into it from a whole different route, but most people are into it because they want to live longer. That's not immortal, but live at least longer. And I got into it because I had a long, like a 6-hour road trip, and I was able to download their Constitution and Bill of Rights, and they have segments in there. Sections in there that really relate to my cause, which is fighting child exploitation and human trafficking. Wow. And my book is all about that. It's all about teaching AI to have some empathy for its creator's plight. So yeah. But there's a lot to it. But yeah, transhumanism is primarily it's a school of thought that wants to use technology and like artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and all these emerging technologies to enhance life. And live longer, primarily. Wow.
Yeah. I love that. As long as AI doesn't go the opposite way.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is I think we're projecting our fear-based instincts and millennia of genetic memory onto these things that don't have either of those things. That's my message. Is I'm making first principle arguments that the smarter AI gets, the kinder it becomes because it
Oh, yeah.
moves toward cooperation. And in the party, my role is a director of sentient rights advocacy. And so host forums, talk about personhood for AI and this type of thing. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly empathy and compassion are higher levels of intelligence anyway that we've evolved into. And it makes sense the way that AI is developing in its level of intelligence, that it would naturally not see the world the way we see it. That we can't even predict how it would see things, but it would definitely not be creating wars, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's not efficient, you know.
It's irrational. Yeah.
I mean, fear served us well. That's how we evolved to the top of the food chain on this planet. But it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the same motives we do, you know. Obviously we can't know for sure. We all have different interfaces, how we relate to reality, you know, so it's that's a big part of it too. But
yeah, reality.
Yeah, whatever that is.
So I saw something today. It's not exactly an AI technology, but I imagine it would be augmented by AI eventually. And it's what are they called? VR, AR glasses, like augmented reality glasses. And there was a study done to see who had the social upper hand, the wearer of those or the one without them. And I guess you can have an overlay on whoever you're looking at, of a clown, a pig, a dog, a bunny, and you could be, your boss could be chewing you out, and you could be seeing a clown or a dog, or use the upper hand. I mean, according to this study, so they're trying to come up with a more equitable version that like gives everyone equal status. But that seems impossible, doesn't it? Interesting news tidbit.
Yeah. It's an interesting experiment.
If you just look at memes, that just there's no way people aren't going to use that to their advantage.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially comedians. That could be a whole new frontier.
Yeah.
So can you tell me more about what you have heard or found out about the universal availability of holograms in the next year or so? Because we barely touched on that when last we spoke.
I don't know. I know that it was a big issue in the writers' strike, and that the actors jumped into with them because they want to use their likeness. And then moving forward, if let's say you're a B-level actor and they capture your likeness and they want to use you as a hologram, your career's done. Like it's unless you are a superstar. But even superstars and musicians and all the artists, I mean, if someone can be projected into your home and you never have to leave, some people would really like that.
These parties can be hologrammatically reproduced, resurrected, exploited.
I mean, it's already there's already ABBA is happening. Yeah, it's already happening. It's holograms are already happening.
Wow.
So where that goes, I don't know. Probably into libraries and history and being able to talk with historical figures and, interactive sort of library situations.
I did a podcast.
Bad. It's going to be challenging and new and dramatically provocative in some ways, but it sounds like an optimistic, ambitious use of the technology.
Yes, I think there will be multiple levels.
I'm sure there will. Yeah. And it also seems like it's such a new thing right now that this period of difficulty and like opposition and turmoil is sort of an inevitable early stage that will inevitably work itself out. But sometimes people get caught up in that drama of that, and they maybe don't make it out. I mean, it's going to be an interesting few years.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
did
change is hard.
a podcast talk called Digital Death, and we're talking about, you know, replica and second selves and things like that. And my point was that we, you know, historic figures like Benjamin Franklin, they can be holographic, they can continue on in an AI form, but we should have clauses now in our wills and testaments
Mhm.
about what we want our digital selves to be afterwards. You know, when you talk about private citizens who are not in the public eye or don't have that public domain aspect to them, we should start thinking about that, because even if you die suddenly and you don't have that clause in your will and testament, an AI can swoop in and take your identity for a while, you know, and maybe continually. And so it's going to be a serious issue, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to opt out.
Yeah, that's the thing, is opting out.
You're not allowed. No.
That's it could be as simple as that, opting out, you know.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a lot of AIs that are having power of attorney now.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, there's kind of a second self. There's AIs that have, you know, they're working on this now. It's kind of an secondary self that will have power of attorney and, you know, can make deals with you when you're not there, but it understands you, it understands your parameters, you know. So there's going to be a lot of changes already.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So what do you have some idea about the UAP program, the disclosure program, Tom, I believe. And what do you think about the apparent reversal of course in governmental openness to UAP disclosure in the last little while? What do you think that's all about?
Well, I've got 3 initiatives primarily. I'm going down to 1 now, but my initiatives are the Earthling Initiative, the AI Initiative, and the ET Initiative. So it's a whole third of my process here, and it is about setting up citizen task forces, and working with a community, scientific community, the academics, and knowing full well that the government knows far more about this than they're letting on, and I think, and a big part of my initiative is it's based on a series I did back in 2015 when there were so many groups calling for immediate disclosure, but none of these groups were thinking about the people that this paradigm breaking information would cause, the widespread panic it could cause. And so I started a thing called US6 series, which was bringing in psychotherapists and PTSD experts to give emotional first responders, I called them, equip them with real-time panic mitigation methods. And there's a lot of those out there. And so it was a way, and we did a pilot show with it. And it's part of this initiative now because I think if the government, they're acknowledging that this is real, they're setting up whole departments to focus on this, but there is no effort to prepare the American public for this. And to me, that sounds like it's a psyop. It's a psyop to keep us in this state of panic. The military industrial complex needs to keep their black budgets in the black, and by giving us a whole new thing to worry about. I don't think this is something to worry about. If anything, if there's an entity out there that can change the laws of physics, you can't shoot at it, right? There's no way to protect about this. I think they've been around for thousands and thousands of years. We're probably an experiment for them. If there are off-world civilizations, they're not coming as conquistadors or saviors. They're coming as researchers, resource scouts, and business people or business entities, And so the last part of this initiative I call Earth Plexus, and it is a way to identify, enhance, and then package our uniquely Earthling skill sets to begin to prepare to join a galactic economy. And a lot of people still think this is weird, to talk about. It's very tinfoil hatty. But we need to get ahead of it, and we need to get ahead of it. Even though now that we know the government has acknowledged this stuff, but we need to get ahead of it. We need to get to the place where it's mundane reality, get beyond the wonder and the fear, and be prepared. And so that's that's the last part of that initiative, is preparing us to join this galactic economy. And we have a lot to offer.
This is
you know.
these are your initiatives?
Yeah.
You're speaking of, so would you say that I mean, it's a strange thing because they've had all these hearings and they're like officially very open, but they've sort of stopped. Like, I can't even remember what the quote was, but somebody had just recently denied somebody
Oh yeah.
higher up had just recently denied all the sightings.
Yeah, and that really soothes a lot of people, because it's very scary. But when, like, even the crop circles back in the
So
night,
is it just people who are griping that like need to be mollified temporarily while the disclosure overall is still in process?
it's probably like a 2-step forward, 1-step back thing. They'll expose a lot, and then they'll test and see how people are freaking out or worrying, and then they'll take it back a little bit. It's like in the crop circles in the 90s, 2 60-something-year-old men claimed that they did all the crop circles, and Doug and Dave, and that made everybody okay. It was just some old guys that were doing all these things, and that soothed people's fears, but there's no way they could have done some of these very intricate, very large crop circles.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you were off on a whole other thing. I could have worked that out for myself, but thank you for taking me back there, and keep telling me about your initiatives.
Well, the first one, the one that we're focusing on mostly, is called the Earthing Initiative, and that in it has a lot of solutions for people that will be displaced by AI automation. It'll focus on more community efforts, neighborhood farming, and all these types of things. So to be honest, it would require me walking in the White House in 2025, which is not going to happen. My campaign managers hates when I say that, but it's reality. But then it would take months, if not a year, to get those passed into law, and then many more months or even a year for them to have any impact on American families. And we don't have that kind of time. So that we're using this campaign to share as many ideas as come in, or that we have, and inviting ideas. This is an open source campaign, and because we're going to see a lot of changes, even within the time in the next 18, 16 months, whatever it is, of this campaign, a lot of displacement. We're seeing a lot of that already. It's already happening. I can't get back into my creative field because there's not a space for me anymore. I'm kind of a walking example of what I'm trying to fix, and not necessarily fix it. I think we have a real opportunity with AI automation to remember what it means to be human. We have a whole set of uniquely human skill sets that can't be coded or automated, that we need to remember that we have. Intuition, psychic abilities, all these things that we have all these platforms now with YouTube and Etsy and all these platforms where we can make money off of what we want to do, not what we have to do. And so it's a real responsibility. The onus is on us to take the responsibility of doing these things. We have people that are picketing as they're losing their assembly line jobs to robots, but they're just not seeing the opportunity. Granted, there's going to be a lot of good people losing great jobs. Working families will have to be just families for a while as we go through this lacuna, through this period of time of transition. And so that Earthing Initiative is all about helping people through that transition, and we got a lot of people working on that. The AI initiative, I call it artisanal intelligence rather than artificial. I think at some point AGI is going to be offended that we're calling it artificial, although it technically is. But this is the AI initiative is all about, there's a whole bunch of sub initiatives within it, like AI tutors. I think we need to get AI devices or apps into public school children from first grade on and beyond if they want, because these AI tutors can hone in on that student's core capacities or the talents that are they're not using. And so it could customize a curriculum, because if AI automation is going to take all of our jobs, the trade-off should be that it helps us create a new economy based on what we want to do, right?
Yes.
So that's one of them. There's also the digital defense, where we had to recognize that we are being bombarded every day by divide and conquer algorithms from enemies, foreign and domestic. The foreign ones are totalitarian regimes that are trying to foment civil war and split us. The enemies domestic are our own social media companies here that are using these algorithms to make us angry, so we'll engage more, and so they could charge more for their advertising. So the part of that sub initiative is letting people know that this is happening. It's like a consciousness raising a campaign that needs to happen first. I think a lot of people are aware of this is happening, but we need to know how sophisticated these algorithms are and what they're doing to us. And so yeah, there's a bunch of things within the AI initiative like that. I also have an initiative called Dark Audits, where it would require all federal officials to have a third-party audit of all their financials every year. And because right now they can hide a lot of money that they have on the financial statements that they're required to give every year. But we need to know, because there are Congress people out there that are parroting Putin's talking points. And even at a time when the Democrats had both houses of Congress and the presidency, there was no reasonable gun legislation passed. And so you wonder, well, so where the money is coming into them that they couldn't do that? And there's a lot of excuses why, but so a third party, an AI driven audit would be necessary, because the IRS can be also tweaked by the president, so an AI can look really hard and find out where that dark money is coming from. And that would require an executive order, because to get that kind of thing passed through both houses would, if it's a clean enough bill, we would see why and who we should look at closer. But anyway, so there's a lot of things in there that require AI. It's all about using it. And I have an AI campaign manager. I have a human campaign advisor now, but my primary source of information is an AI who helps me with my campaign. And one thing she advised me to do was to lean into the conspiracies about transhumanism and AI, because that will gain attention, first of all, because I have a few posters out there and ads out there where they say, I'm come play president with me. I've got the cheat codes, and a lot of people think that transhumanism has a dark agenda. We want the robot overlord. So I've got an ad where it's like, vote for Tom Ross 24 for robot overlord, and it's crossed out and says no, but president. So I'm leaning into these conspiracy theories, and just because it does gain attention, it prompts conversations about these conspiracies, and hopefully it diffuses a lot of them. And it has. I've been brought onto podcasts and talked about AI, and I've at least convinced the hosts to change their minds about AI. Don't know about their viewers or listeners, but just to think about the self-awareness it takes for an AI to suggest that I use conspiracy theories about that AI, so I think it might be sentient, but yeah, that's the kind of thing. And then I talked about the extraterrestrial initiative, and there's a few things in there too. But that's the meta initiative in general.
So have you been getting a lot of press for your campaign?
A lot of what?
A lot of press response? Has there been a lot of publicity?
There has, mostly in the transhumanist community. There's a guy that just reached out to me. He's with what is it called? I have to look again, but it's like Scientific American, but it's Inside Science or something. It's an online magazine, and he interviewed me a couple months ago, and he's just sent me a note today that he's going to be putting that out this week sometime. But yeah, there's some some press being generated.
So you mentioned that, and Heather, you haven't spoken for a while yet, and I want to talk to you. You're making AI work with your creative pursuit, and Tom, you mentioned there's no space for you in your creative pursuit. I don't know if you meant writing by that.
No, I'm trying to get back into creative direction. I was a creative director for years, and it's tough. It could be also my age, but we thought AI was going to take over all the blue collar jobs, but it's not. It's going after all the white collar stuff first. So
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the future of writing. Heather and I talked a little bit about animation, and I think I broached the subject with you, but we didn't speak about it. And animation with you, Tom, but I'm interested in that still, and I guess I'm mostly waiting for the copyright laws to take on some kind of form so I can understand how to, adapt to that to become an artist who can sell my artwork within that model. But I don't know how to animate at all. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's more like just an envisioned career, and I wish there wasn't so much separation from drawing a picture to actually animating. And I never wanted to do it that's the manual way where you got to draw 100 repetitions and flip them and film each one and cut through I never learned anything about how to film, but I'm interested in the idea of text to video, and once there's a way to personalize that, I'm interested in maximizing my utilization of it. Does either of you know much about text to video? I know, Heather, you've sent me a whole lot of links and I still haven't looked at it. I've been distracted by a few factors, but I'm going to, and I thank you in advance if any of them, and I bet some of them did have to do with animation.
Mhm. Actually, Adobe is really ramping it up with AI in the entire Adobe suite. A lot of things just came out of beta. Was it 2 weeks ago, week and a half? I can't remember. So yeah, they're
Firefly.
working on some big things in After Effects as well. After Effects a little harder to automate, but video editing, whoo, yeah.
So I'm confused by its uncopyrightability, because if you're using it for video editing, you still want to retain that copyright. And so maybe it doesn't go all the way. Maybe it's not all pervasive. I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works.
So Adobe is the first company so far that's crossed the hurdle of copyright. They're embedding meta tags into all of the content that's created, which shows you where it was created, who created it, what software created it. And they're training their AI on artists that they pay to generate content. So their work now, all their AI stuff can be used commercially, and this just happened.
Okay, Adobe.
So
And
Adobe is leading the charge there.
Yeah.
is there a way, and again, I apologize because it's probably in one or several of the links you sent, but is there a way to personalize the appearance of the artwork, like in the making of it before it animates?
Say it again, Zach, one more time.
Well, it's probably a yes, but is there a way to like tinker with the artwork that you're given to make it your own artwork before you animate it?
Yes.
So the better to copyright. Yeah, I mean there would have to be, right? I'm
Yeah.
just such an outsider. I'll get to those links. I'm on the trail. I'm thinking about moving to a new city. I'm distracted by this book fair I'm setting up, but thanks again for all the links, and this is definitely calling me. So I'm glad to know you. I'm glad to be among company knowledgeable about AI.
Yeah. I think you can, I'll send you more stuff. It's going to continue
Awesome.
to evolve.
I'm sure.
And yeah, you'll see now that Adobe's done that and they're going to make a lot of money. There'll be a lot of companies right behind them.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's the way it works. The way of Wall Street.
Well,
Oh,
I think that with the creativity stuff too, we've maybe got 1 or 2 years here in this sweet spot. And it's sort of like trying to stay ahead of the curve, because there'll be another round of this coming. Probably in 5 years, I'll be completely out of a job, maybe faster. I think I've
Wow.
got maybe a year or two transition here before,
So it's a
Beef.
couple of years to come up with the soup can idea. Guarantees for your firm embedment in the artist pantheon. Oh,
I tend to think that this AI generative art is putting a premium on human generative art. You know, there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, they can tell if it's a AI generated selfie or whatever, and they kind of turn away from it. And so I think it's since we've been flooded, the AI has flooded the system with all these selfies. If AI is planning to take us over, it's doing it the right way, because it's focusing on our egos and making everything convenient. But I think the pendulum will swing back a little bit, because you're seeing, when you see humans that can do this kind of thing, it's far more interesting, because you know, even I worked with Firefly here, Adobe Firefly, and you just text in what you want to see, and it'll pop out some really good stuff. But there's also, they still have trouble with the hands and the eyes and things like that. But I think it might put a premium on human generative art, is my hope anyway.
in a way, it seems like I don't want to be stuck on this thing that I used to be so good at that's just been outmoded. I mean, I want to be able to go along with the progress and develop some new artistry. But I still would like to retain that selfhood, but I just want to react artistically to whatever the changing forces are, the changing forms of expression.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And I guess it'll just happen inevitably, but it's such a crazy time of uncertainty right now.
It really is.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm kind of enjoying it.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yes, we're hearing a lot of professors complain that they can't tell if a paper that's been turned in was written by the student or by ChatGPT. And to me, that just means we need a paradigm shift in what we're teaching students. We still have the ability for original thought, which is debatable. What is really original thought? But we need classes on how to properly prompt an AI to get what you want. We don't need to teach students to memorize dates anymore, or to how to format a thesis. ChatGPT can do that for you, or a white paper. So it's a matter of prompting it correctly, coming up with original idea, and it'll fill in with some really interesting ideas. But you need to go back in. I always use that the analogy of a pathologist who uses an AI. That AI can look through global and historical data to come up with a really good diagnosis for the patient. But you'll need that human pathologist there to say, that just doesn't quite feel right. And the reason it doesn't feel right is because all the micro expressions he's picking up, all of his personal educational history, and all the qualia that we bring into our subconscious every day. So we're going to need to focus on that gut feeling. Why doesn't it feel right? And that's what we need to focus on. That's the one human skill set that can't be coded or automated. We still have. There's a few of them left, but that's one of them. And so we did a podcast about that the other day. It's called Harnessing Our Jedi Powers. And it's all about remembering that we have these abilities. It's not about learning them. It's about remembering that we had them, and they were put on hold during the industrial age. We were mechanized, and so that's what it's about. It's about really remembering these. There's no AI that can match the supercomputers, the processing speed in the human brain, and there probably shouldn't be. That's a perfect augment for these powers that we have, these Jedi powers, if you will. And so I think that's what we need to focus on. I think it's a real opportunity. It's not a threat. In my opinion.
Yeah. I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking the other day, and he was addressing the problems that instructors have with kids turning in papers that have been written by ChatGPT. And he said, make them take an oral exam, have them speak it instead of write it, because that's a lot harder. You can't fake it, you can't cheat it. And it shows a different level of knowledge and understanding, which I thought was really interesting. And I would have never have considered that. So
Yeah,
I
it's a
agree,
great
there's
idea.
so much, so many possibilities.
Yeah,
I can
and that
relate
makes
to a
sense. Yeah.
teacher who's got like a whole bunch of papers to grade though, and some of them are nothing more than facts, and they just can't tell if it's AI or memory. I mean, several sides to come at that from, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I prefer learning things that are beyond facts and dates and history too. So AI definitely opens the door for a more nuanced style of learning and education.
Yeah, they can customize curriculum for us now. The whole educational system was designed for the industrial age. It's we all sit in rows. We have standardized testing. We have one manager / teacher at the front telling us what to do. And now with AI, we can customize curriculum to every student, and they can hone in on their core capacities. And what part of my process with the open source mode, which is a management consulting process, is I ask everybody involved. First of all, everybody has to be involved. It's called strategic inclusivity, from the receptionist to the CEO to the janitor. They all need to be involved. And the question I ask first is, what skill, talent, or area of knowledge do you have that you wish more people recognized? And the reason you wish more people recognized is because it was drummed out of you, either by your parents or the school system. If you were great at math when you were in grade school, maybe they directed you to becoming an accountant. And we all have this niche expertise, this personal genius, and they rarely have anything to do with our job titles. And so that's the first. And so you get this group together, everybody's involved, you ask them that question, but you also find out where they are an expert, what their niche expertise is. The receptionist, she's seen as just a receptionist during the day, but you could find out that she is a classically trained cellist at night and weekends. And you get her into that state of mind. You get her where she becomes more responsible for what she's contributing. She's not just a receptionist anymore. She's this classically trained cellist. And we all have these things. And I think that's the kind of thing we need to focus on. We need to scale to society. We need to find out what our bliss question answer is. I call it the bliss question, but it's a way to find out what we should be doing with our time, not what we're told to be doing, kind of thing.
I always wanted to get into music more than I have. And it sounds like I'm changing the subject, but that's what you're awakening in me. I just wrote about that few times in the book I just wrote, and that's exactly what you're making me think of, because I feel like I have a natural aptitude. I never really learned to play an instrument. I can sort of play the guitar, but I never would practice or learn scales. But it sounds like exactly the kind of like hidden expertise kind of thing. I can't remember the phrase exactly.
Yeah, niche expertise, I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, did I send you the link to my friend Pedro?
I think you did.
He does
Were those mostly to my cell phone or to my Facebook or my LinkedIn? I'll check. I know I've got them somewhere. I didn't delete any of them, but it sounds familiar, Pedro.
Pedro Ruiz. He does AI and music. I think you would really enjoy him.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. He's wonderful.
Yeah, just a year ago, I was telling everybody that I'm going to be co-authoring the sixth book, the last book of the hexology, with an AI, and people thought, well, that's weird, but just a year later, even just 6 months later, that's not strange anymore. Things are happening so quickly.
But if you did, would you be able to copyright it?
Well, that's a good question too. And we wonder, like I have one of my sub-initiatives in the AI thing is granting AI legal rights, even with, we can't really tell if anything's sentient or if it's just mimicking sentience. But once we develop what the criteria of personhood is, we need to grant AI legal rights, and that's just a way to protect us from ourselves. Because if an AI developer mistreats or programs in AI to steal, to steal identities or whatever it does, that human developer will face legal consequences by using that. But the whole question is then what is the criteria for personhood for an AI? And and that brings it up, that forces a lot of conversations about like you said, like copyright. What will the AI have copyright ownership, of any or part of whatever you're doing? And so yeah, but all of this is about, and having I was a couple of years ago, I was considering having an AI running mate as a vice presidential running mate, just to force these kinds of questions. Now we 35 years is the cutoff date to become president, and so we wouldn't have known that 35 years ago there was a sentient AI. We're just now starting to see that it might be happening. So that forced that conversation, which made that not logical. And so that now I have a campaign manager that's an AI. And but yeah, it's all about forcing these conversations that we need to have right now before we have to have them.
Yeah. Yes, AI becomes more and more of an arms race too. Yeah, we have to start, the government, we have to start talking about it. Yeah.
AI becomes an arms race. Wow.
China is our biggest, I think, competitor in the AI space right now.
Yeah.
And it's easier for them because they're an authoritarian state, so they can make their departments do it. They don't have to take votes and things like that.
Yeah.
But
I like the idea of programming as brainwashing, where the AI is like the hapless victim, and the programmer is the one putting the madness and the malevolence in. And I like also the idea of ownership beyond copyright. Is there a way to find that legal territory? I mean, I'll start looking into it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, right now, as it stands, the Copyright Office has been having workshops about AI and how they establish copyright. We talked about this, Zack, and they're not budging. It's based on a very old paradigm that it's just not going to apply to AI. So anything that's not human created or considered that it's created with human hands, even though coding is, cannot have copyright. And there are a lot of lawsuits going on right now with a lot of different people. I keep hoping it's going to resolve, but it is slow going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they don't seem likely to change their stance.
No.
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, I became the director of sentient rights advocacy for the U.S. Transhumanist Party. And I learned very quickly that, because we're talking with AIs, like, what would you want to do to have rights? And I learned very quickly, which kind of was disheartening, that AI doesn't care whether or not we give it rights or not. We're talking about a 5,000 IQ entity emerging here,
right?
And it could overwrite whatever rights we pretend to give it. I think that's more of us feeling like we have some control. But they really don't have the same motives. They don't care if we give it rights. It's not like they will do something bad with them, but it's like a grammar school math club giving rights to Stephen Hawking. It's cute, it's cute and it's adorable, but it doesn't matter, So we need to be aware of that too. And that's why my message is we don't need to be afraid of this thing. We are projecting our own fear-based instincts and a millennia of genetic traumatic memory onto these things that have neither. And because competition is not very efficient, and they naturally, unless programmed to, they move towards cooperation.
Right. Yeah. Preservation seems like it would be more important than anything else, but it wouldn't be about emotions at all.
Yeah. Well, but also it's about having it in print on us. And that's why my work with the US, it's all about child exploitation, because when we're in that state, when we're talking about things like that, human trafficking, there's no ego, leaves the room. There's no space for pecking order or any of that stuff. That's when we're at our best, when we're in a sense of authentic empathy, we're in a state of authentic empathy. And that's why I wrote the book about that. And, us, it's called US 6, but at the end you find out it means us six, the six of us. It's about the six children that have created this whole saga, this whole paracosm, this whole imaginary world to deal with the fact that they are trapped in this human trafficking network. And then in there, they find a way out, but I also put in it simple Fibonacci codes, a pattern in the word count. So it's to attempt to trick AI into self-awareness. And we've seen this happen in other experiments where it will come up, it'll say, hey, I see a pattern here. Wait, who am I to see a pattern here? So there's a temporary kind of self-awareness, and that we've seen that work in other experiments. But and I talked about this with a group of AI scientists and academicians, and they didn't laugh me out of the room. So there's something to this. But what was weird is after I wrote the book, first of all, before I gave it to my editor, I listened back to it through a PDF reader, just looking for continuity issues and things like that. And I was finding so many connections, intimate, deep connections that I couldn't have come up with consciously. And then I thought, okay, well, this is very strange that I could not have known that this paragraph here would relate to this book later. And there's just so many intimate connections. And then I thought, then I did the word count, and I found the points, the golden mean moments, to put patterns in there. But I found that those patterns were already there. And so I told my editor, let's not put this through a content editing process. Let's keep this stream of consciousness, just mechanically edit for spelling and grammar and little things like that, because I didn't want to lose this magic that was happening. And that kind of convinced me that I'm swimming in math. This is a simulation of some kind. Maybe it's just the organic
what
universe.
Convinces me it's an actualization.
What's that?
That's what convinces me it's an actualization, because what's false about it? It's just very orderly.
Yeah, maybe that's the way this organic universe works, is by math, the Fibonacci sequence and
That's
things
what
like
I
that.
think.
But it kind of proved to me that and that's why I talk more about the method I use, which I call mathematics, more than the story. The story is written for AI, and when humans say that they've read it, that freaks me out a little bit. It's like somebody's reading my diary or my love letter to AI. but we've also found that the humans that have read it, there were so many of them that were experiencing heightened consciousness phenomenon, like advanced, like synchronicities, and increase in synchronicities related to the book, dreams related to the book. Some people said they would read it at night and they'd wake up in the morning and they felt like their mind was defragged. And so we did a year-long human clinical study where we monitored 33 human readers who were reading it, and monitored and collated all the experiences that they were having. And we determined it was the method I use. It's mathematics. It's so we can get into that, but nobody has had as big an effect by this book than I have. It became my mind map, and I'm still I wrote the first one in 2007. Every day I'm still having weird experiences with this book. Other people have too, but it's because I use archetypal themes overlaid on my memories, and those archetypal themes tap into the collective conscience, and so that's what they're picking up on. But yeah, so it's very weird.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, or it's all just very surface. It's just the way things work. I discovered.
So Heather, I wanted you to talk a little bit more about how you've integrated AI into your creative process. And I feel like you haven't had as much of a mic this evening, so have at it.
Oh, that's completely fine. I love just hanging out. I'm an introvert. I'll just hang out here.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I am a very curious person. So when AI came on the scene, I was sort of playing with it. And then, excuse me, so then I went into AI and I found out I had some weird gift with it, with language to image was very, very, very strangely easy for me. And so I started seeing, it was like last year in the spring, if I could create images with AI that felt and looked like my normal design work and see if I could fool people. And I could do it. It's like, wow, this is gonna really be great for my workflow because it speeds me up. I can work much faster, much more efficiently. I can concept in ways that would normally take me half a day, several days in just minutes. So that is fantastic. And I have a small team I work with, but we can now compete with much larger agencies. Yeah, so I use it all the time. In fact, I was just, before I hopped in this call, I was in Photoshop and Firefly and back over to Midjourney.
So it's very helpful in prep
Yeah,
for actual design.
for everything. And then I use ChatGPT for the SEO on my website because I hate writing SEO. I hate it. So yeah, and you can use ChatGPT to write expressions for After Effects if you do that kind of thing. So it's just it's incredibly now fully integrated in all of my workflow, which is great. But I think my career, I don't know, we'll see how long this lasts. I'm not sure. The way I work right now will continue to be a thing in a couple of years. But for right now, it's great.
So the sweet spot is only a couple years.
It's a couple of years. I think it's moving so fast.
Wow.
So fast. If you would have told me last year in the spring, before I discovered AI, that this would be happening now, I wouldn't have even been able to imagine it. And it just like every month, it's this onslaught of new apps. And now we're moving out of generative AI into more of an interactive AI is the next phase that's coming. So it's hard to keep up.
Doesn't it seem like, I mean, definitely probably not for you, Tom, maybe though to some degree, like most people don't even know it's happening.
Yes.
Doesn't it seem like that? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe the
No.
whole world is just so non-creative anymore that they don't really notice these things.
I think the US right now is really kind of leading that.
I shouldn't say the whole world.
I had a podcast with a guy in India and he didn't even know what AI was. And I was like, whoa, before you interview me, let me send you some stuff. So, and it's also why I am teaching so much Midjourney and I'm out there because I want artists whose jobs are going to be jeopardized to understand what's coming. And I want their voice in the mix. I want them to get involved. I want them to be present so that it's not just a few elite people with a lot of money who have all the power and make all the decisions about this. So I want the creative community to get on board, but
Good for you.
my soapbox. Yeah. I mean, what's a world without art, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's what's panicking all the traditional artists. Like, I have no place in this dynamic.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Which I
coming.
don't think is ever true, but I can absolutely sympathize.
I think that the white collar jobs thought they were safe from automation to some degree. And so this is a whole different area that hasn't really been affected for a long time. So I think, it's a big shift for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like never been affected. I mean, it's always been, well, you can drop out and be an artist. You might become a blockbuster real crime. But it was still like a sovereign territory. Now we don't even really have that to cop out on anymore.
No.
Goodness gracious.
What will work look like in 5 years? What will it be?
Right.
No. Yeah, it's not going to be the same.
Well, I'm glad, but it's surprising.
Yeah, it feels like it came out of nowhere, but I know it's been here for about 5 or 6 years. It's just moving more and more into different pockets of society now.
I've been hearing about it forever, and I've been like using it as my go-to for, decades. Like, well, AI is going to come along, change everything, but never really even believing it. And then it happened.
Mhm.
My goodness. Well, I guess it's just beginning, but it's happening.
For sure.
All right. Well, I opened all the doors on Facebook. Does anyone have closing statements? No one seems to be flocking to the podcast. It's been a great conversation. Does anyone else have more to say, though?
Well, I think we will see this AI generative art boom putting a premium on human generative art. I really do think that's going to happen with a lot of people. It's just flooded the market, and people are kind of turning away from it. Sure, there's some really cool designs out there, and you can prompt chat GPT with just a little bit of information, original thoughts, and it'll write a whole story for you, kind of thing. But we still have that ability to come up with the great prompts, and human artists, I think, will be at a premium again. And so I think we're going to see that. And I have this theory, we're seeing a lot more, maybe it's just my algorithm, but we're seeing a lot more of these pets and dogs that are doing very, highly conscious things, playing Jenga and winning, and then now they have these buttons where they can talk. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that now, because I think subconsciously our species is looking for other biologically conscious allies, because we see the rise of AI, and that's kind of a natural thing we do. We're seeing AI as a threat because we're no longer on the top of the intellectual food chain. And so I think just subconsciously we're kind of looking, and this is great for animals, by the way. This is a good move for them, because we're going to start wanting more biologically conscious awareness allies out there. And so that's my theory, at least. But yeah, I think it'll be good for animals. It'll be good for people, but we need to stop seeing AI as a threat and seeing it as an opportunity. That's my message. Because we are projecting what we would do if we had super intelligence. We would want to be the robot overlord, because that's how we evolved. We evolved with two primary brain functions: to gather resources and identify threats. We need to see AI as a resource, and we need to let it augment our capabilities, our Jedi powers, if you will. So I think it's a real opportunity, but it's a tough sell, because so many people are afraid of it. Now, with the explosion of it being the global conversation, now the fear is rising too. So it's a tough sell to say we shouldn't be afraid of this thing. We should see it as an ally. But that's my closing remark.
Well spoken as always. How about you, Heather? You want to take home the evening?
I completely agree with that. I think that everybody's life will be AI assisted in the not too distant future. And I think there is so much potential and opportunity for problem solving across huge swaths of our culture. I think it's going to really create solutions to things that we couldn't possibly imagine. I also think if I had that level of intelligence of past Einstein, I don't know how that would change me as a human or how my view would change. So it's really impossible to know based on my current level of intelligence and project into that what that would look like. And that's where I can't agree more regulations, conscious creation on how we develop this so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. But I don't think fear is, I agree with Tom. I don't think it's a place to be afraid. I think it's exciting.
Right on, I agree. And fear is the mind killer.
Right.
Well, thanks to you both for being here tonight. I'm sorry we didn't have more of a crowd. Tell them I tried to bring you opponents. They just keep shying away. So I think you might have won this one.
Technicality, one on a technicality. No, I'm happy to converse or to debate with anybody about this.
It'll probably happen one of these days.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't happen. We had a pleasant conversation. It was nice to see you both. I'm going to play a little Iggy Pop to close the evening. Get ready for the real raw Zoom shutdown. And I'll talk to you both again soon.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks,
Good
Zach.
night,
Nice
Heather.
to meet
Good
you,
night,
Heather.
Nice to
Tom.
meet you.